Any more thoughts on that episode, Andy? Any more memories?
This one really good one. Alex had some problems on the drive home because of too many Bourbon County. Got lost in one of those. What are those things called? The reservoirs or whatever. The overpass. What are those restaurants called? Things.
You can just pass
Oasis.
it. Do it again.
All
Pass
right.
it to me.
Jesus, any more memories?
No, just because I was going to...
Cheers.
You stumbled on into the Tap Takeover podcast. All right, welcome back to the Tap Takeover podcast for one of our favorite times of the year, and that is the holiday season. We like to bring around our blooper episode. We like to take a minute and listen to all the times that we didn't have the right answers, that we didn't have the right things to say, that we maybe mixed up beers between different breweries, things like that. Andy, it's been a long year. I think we have less bloopers than we did last year, so that's a good thing. But we had some good ones this year. I don't know, what were some of your favorite moments?
I think Goose Island was some pretty good moments right off the bat there to start the year. I think we got a little bit better after that with creating bloopers, but we had a ton just from that episode.
Well, that's what happens when they have the 2015 on tap there at the employee lounge room. So, yeah.
Yeah,
there was a lot of...
While we're recording,
yeah. It was a recipe for disaster, but I think it was a fun time, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Plus, we threw the entire 2017 lineup of Bourbon County on top of that, so we really went for it in that interview. Plus, it was a 2-part supersized episode. Yeah, there was a lot of room for bloopers between all the beers and all the time that we spent with with Quinn and Reed and all those fantastic guys. So as we like to do, we're going to do a live tasting with this blooper episode. And to start off with our Goose Island bloopers, Andy, you brought a couple of the 2018 lineup. Why don't you tell us about these?
So I brought the vanilla and the blood orange. I think both are pretty tasty. The vanilla is a bit aggressive for me.
Yeah, I almost feel like that vanilla maybe needs a couple years to settle down. Andy, on your birthday this past year, we tried the 2014 Vanilla Rye, and that one had aged perfectly. I mean, that was like marshmallow flavors and just amazing things. Do you think this vanilla is going to follow the same suit?
I think it'll probably settle down. I mean, the Vanilla Rye, people said the same thing about that when it first came out. There was too much vanilla. It was too aggressive. You give it a couple years to mellow, and it's going to fall in. I mean, you're not going to have that little rye bright bite to the smoothiness of the marshmallow vanilla, but it's still going to taste pretty good.
Jesus, what do you think? Too much vanilla, just the right amount?
Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but it's this goes along with our experiment thing. I definitely I would love to taste this in 2 years, but yeah, right now it's just too much, and it's surprising because everything else they do is the balance is amazing, everything that we've tried from them. So I would think that fresh you wouldn't get it like this, but I would still drink it. I'm not saying no, but yeah, I'd love to sit this down for 2 years.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that. What do you think about aging the Midnight Orange, the dark chocolate orange peel Bourbon County? We actually talked with one half of the brain trust behind this beer at Great Taste in the Midwest this year.
I wouldn't age this one. I like this one, but I also like the Southern Tier, that chocolat. I love that kind of the combination of the stout, the orange. And this one's a good balance, and yeah, I think this one's perfect how it is. You
hit the nail on the head with not aging it too, because it's one of the first ones. There was another one this year too, one of the variants where they changed the number of years. This is good up to 2 years in your cellar, for growth, and then it'll probably still be a really good chocolatey stout. But the orange be completely gone.
Right. I love the nose on this because you really get those citrusy, that orange peel smell, and then when you taste it, the balance, you don't get too much orange in the taste. It's a good balanced taste. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think the dark chocolate really balances out that orange nicely on this one. And Andy, for our listeners, what is the normal aging for Bourbon County, and what's the difference between this one?
normally 5 years. I mean, it's all about how long the adjuncts are going to last in the beer, right?
Okay, so
The
they're
barrel's
saying
always
3
gonna be there.
years, 3 years less on this one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that just means a heavier adjunct flavor, I would say. And Andy also told us that there's a rumor going around online that you can do a little experiment with these two beers and create a brand new flavor. So tell us about that.
So supposedly I heard if you dump the two together, the vanilla and the orange, it's sort of like a orange dreamsicle. I mean, it's pretty close, actually. I think it's pretty
And because we love you guys, we're going to do it here.
It kind of sounds like that pumpkin episode when Andy said, these pumpkin beers don't taste bad when you pour them all together.
They do melt pretty well.
They do. It's a good combination of flavors there.
They melt very well.
Yeah. Maybe it actually, the combination kind of takes down a little bit of that vanilla intensity,
It's really good.
Yeah.
So you think maybe a little bit of vanilla in that midnight orange would have really set it off?
That would be pretty interesting, but that's what this combination is. I like this.
That's really, really good.
Oh, that's really good. Sorry, I was a little late to the mixing party, but oh boy, that's better than the sum of its parts right there.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So whoever found that out, thank you.
Right? That's as Jim would say, a pro tip. And Jim's missing from this episode.
Don't ruin it yet. There's a lot of pro tips coming up.
Yeah, Jim was a little bit sick today, so he wasn't able to make it. Jim, hope you get better. But as we've decided amongst ourselves, if you do not make it to the blooper episode, you will be roasted. So get ready for that. We're going to roast Jim a little bit, especially his pro tips.
And you know what one of the biggest barrel aging programs in the country loves? Pro tips from a home brewer.
I think that's a good segue into some of our Goose Island bloopers. So our very first episode of the season, of our second season in 2018, we've got 3 pretty funny bloopers. The first one is going to be Jim's pro tips. We've got 2 of them for you. And then, Andy, do you want to talk about my trouble with the KBS, CBS, BCBS shenanigans?
It's an interesting display of acronym power. It's just, it wasn't good, man.
Yeah, in my defense, I had literally just been at Founders the day before for the CBS release. Drove all the way back the same day, and just to make it back to Chicago for our Goose Island interview.
It was a perfect storm because there was a lot of beverages there, and you came there, and actually there was one of the guys worked at Founders, so there was a perfect storm of stuff. So, but we're not going to let you off the hook.
Fair enough. And then our third blooper here is going to be just a little bit of talk about the secondary market and slash Andy picking up on sarcasm.
Yeah, it doesn't work out sometimes.
All right, well let's get into the bloopers.
And pro tip, with these big beers,
I'm sorry. You make it so easy sometimes.
No, go ahead with your pro tip.
Just start over pro tip.
and a pro tip with these big beers.
It's hard not to. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm so interested.
Pro tip.
A pro tip.
I'm so interested.
I think it's a beautiful
marzipan
blend.
tiramisu. I think so.
No,
some kind of like
they're-
dessert.
What's
Marzipan
marzipan?
is an Australian treat. Tiramisu is an Italian finger cookie.
Is that a pro tip?
I remember
That's another pro tip. Pro tip
remember that.
desserts.
When you guys do these adjunct heavy beers, do you guys kind of tweak the KB? Excuse me.
Repeat that because you said it
Am
twice.
I all over the place?
Do you know where you were?
You said KBS.
KBS.
Not
KBS.
BCS.
We've talked founders too much here, right? Yeah. Where are we? This is Goose Island.
Wait, you guys didn't make KBS?
It's coming on.
Fuck you guys.
What's interesting?
So let's get back to this KB.
Lizard of Cos.
We had a lot of.
I looked at him. He's like, I was like,
Lizard of Cos this shit.
The
Nazis attacked Pearl Harbor?
let's
Alex, here.
Do you want to talk about the secondary market? You said
No? Good. Unless you guys want to.
I'm fascinated by it.
You're fascinated.
No.
I'm just fascinated by secondary valuation of beer.
He's honest.
All right.
That's just,
So you want to talk about it or no?
I don't know. I honestly don't know enough to talk about it. I really don't. I'm fascinated by it. I'm seeing the secondary market on some of these beers, and it's genuinely fascinating. Like how.
Oh, people reselling.
yeah,
Exactly.
Lead
Yeah.
into it.
Sure.
I think it's still worth.
No, I mean, tell me about it because I have got a shit ton of it, and I need to sell
I'll
some.
ask you a quick question. Yeah.
Don't say that.
Can I invest in Bitcoin as well?
Will you take beer for Bitcoin?
So,
All right, we are back, and I hope Andy figured out sarcasm by now.
Shit happens.
Okay, well, someday you'll figure it out. So we're going to move right along into our next set of bloopers here, and the next two are from our visit to Tyranina. A couple of good ones. We were giving the guys the lowdown on our new theme music, not theme music, but our intro for beer news and how we came up with it, and discussing copyright laws and stuff. But we had an opinion about it, and they backed us up on it. And what was the other blooper?
the other one was we had a listener write in about a sour beer that they had tried. It was a friend of mine who wrote in, and so I brought it up thinking, they must have a new sour program or something. Turns out not so much.
But that's our research department not picking that one up, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I thought it was a fun discussion. It was a fun little intro. We were playing a little game there of first time, long time.
Oh yeah.
So this is a fun couple of bloopers right here.
That's right. Was it? All right. Like that being in there, I laugh every time.
Awesome.
I don't know.
All right. That's exactly what we're going for. I'd love to hear that.
We were recording that.
I listen to so many different extras. There's like 5 different songs where they use extra. I was like, we could go doo-wop. We could go. There was like a disco version that we could have done, but I was like, I don't know, this smooth jazz R&B. It's so off character.
Who did we say did that? Who did we say did that?
Oh, it was like immature. Or something. Yeah.
And we were pretty confident they were not going to come back. And
That's true. Yeah, you're not gonna have to worry about that.
we're good.
If they ever hear about our podcast and ask us to stop, of course we'll stop, but we'll find out.
Just give them $20 and it probably gives you the rights.
The whole 20.
Oh man! All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, you talked about how you do a lot of the Brewers Gone Wild series, and then sometimes it can become a regular beer.
Yeah.
We had a listener write into us, and his name's Ramon, and he wondered, he had an amazing sour with you guys in the tap room, and he's never seen it in distribution, and he just wondered, how many of your beers are tap room only? And are there any plans to put some of those into distribution? And kind of what does that process look like? How does something go from taproom only into distribution?
Hi, Ramon. Thank you for the question.
You are a professional podcaster.
Yeah, that was good.
First time, long time. Now, I don't know what sour he's referring to.
don't either.
Years and years ago, like the 1900s, we did a kinda lambic, a blueberry kinda lambic.
No, he was here like 3 weeks ago.
Okay, 3 weeks ago.
It was probably a bad beer.
Did something
It was just a spoiled beer, man. I'm glad you liked it.
We're going to cut all this, but... No, was there no sour on tap?
No,
honestly?
we've never made a sour in the last, like literally the only sour to date for Tyrena is Blueberry Kind of Lambic, and it was for their 15th anniversary. Or no, 10th anniversary?
It wasn't for
I think it's for their 10th anniversary. They had a Blueberry Kind of Lambic. That's the only sour I know of coming out of this place.
to it.
Okay.
That's the only
we'll
style
just
right
we'll
now.
just ask that question in a different way.
It'll be asked in a different way. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
All right. So
So sorry to Immature, and if you're listening, we owe you $20.
wait, is that $20 every time we've played Beer News, or just one
No,
blanket?
just one.
And that's not $20 each. That's for
Oh,
the
yeah.
group.
Oh, you figure it out.
You guys figure it out.
So the next little clip we're gonna get into is we got to cover Great Taste of the Midwest, and we walked in, it's hot as shit all day long. First interview of the day, and Jim is quite aggressive right off the bat. We called the aggressive interview, where Jim just sort of like just zones in on the dude and sort of picking on him almost. Yeah, Alex.
Well, it wasn't that he was picking on him. It's just Jim had this hell-bent intensity on getting the location of Hailstorm Brewing, which I feel like he could have Googled. I feel like all of our listeners could have Googled. But Jim was just hell-bent on nailing him down on exactly where Hailstorm Brewing was. And I don't know, it came off very aggressive, which is why it did not make the final cut of this episode. He's just, Jim and his questioning method. Was this a more aggressive style than we've seen, or is this about par for the course?
I think we've seen a lot of this aggressive style, but it usually ends up on the cutting room floor. But I'm glad people are going to listen to some of this.
And then we also have a fantastic moment with Vince Clore, who's our video editor, and he does a lot of the video work for our podcast. He had a funny moment where he ran out of battery power while we were interviewing the legendary Anello Malika from Central Waters. If you have a chance, go back and listen to that 3-part episode that we did with Anello. He's fantastic, great sense of humor, but standing out in the heat, wearing a mask, in, I think, 100-degree weather at Great Taste of the Midwest. He said there's no more. It's no place to run out of.
It's a fun time. It's a great time, and got a couple nice bloopers out of it.
And if our listeners wanted to find you, where are you located?
We are booth 919.
And where's your physical location?
We are just off
No,
the...
where do you brew?
Oh, sorry. Tinley Park, Illinois.
How about an address?
8060 186th Street, Tinley Park, Illinois.
BEERUN Beer Run.
Awesome. All right, cool.
Cheers.
So we will.
Cheers.
All right. So now we're just gonna do a little video, and we're just gonna ask like favorite memory from the fest, kind of a deal.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm putting it on.
All right. Let's get in character.
We gotta get the mask.
We can do an unmasking, or you can do it with the whole thing with the.
Do the whole thing.
Let's do it. All right. Let's get nuts.
Can you hear me okay?
I think so.
Okay.
All right. Alex here with the Tap Takeover podcast. Speaking with a friend of the show, Anello from Central Waters. He's representing the award-winning theme today from his display contest. Anello, tell us what Great Taste of the Midwest means to you, and if you could share a fun... No, did we run out of battery?
Oh man,
God damn it.
It's okay.
so hot. It's so hot.
This is like Jim showing up late to the interview here. And everyone's going to start to think we're not real professional podcasters.
I've been thinking that for a long time, brother. Yeah.
Battery swap.
All right. Sorry, he's new.
Under the bus. Get under there.
We literally hired him for a half price. Whatever. Nobody else can do this shit. I don't know these dumbasses can do it.
We're trying, man. All right, we are back after some pretty funny bloopers of that from that Great Taste in the Midwest episode. was a long episode. It was a fun day. We had a lot of fun on that one, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with these next bloopers. But first of all, we figured this is the blooper episode. I think it's time to talk about a couple of blooper beers. Some beers that a brewery has put out. Fantastic beers up into a certain point, and then they just have a whoops-a-daisy, a big old blooper. Right now, we're going to drink the Lizard of Kaz. If you're a beer drinker, if you're in the beer community, you know about Lizard of Kaz. It was infamous for its overuse of blueberry, its medicinal, almost coffee syrup taste. We're going to do a live tasting right now. Andy, I see you shaking your head. What do you think?
He wants pumpkin beers right now.
So bad. No, dude, this was like...
Would you wash this down with a pumpkin beer?
This would be subpar on the pumpkin beer episode.
What are your first impressions of the Lizard of Kaz? I believe this has been aged for at least a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
That's pretty rough. I mean, we all agreed it got worse, which it was bad to begin with. But so how does it get worse?
Well, I think the dark barrel flavors have become that dark fruit flavor.
Licorice-y?
Yeah. No, it's getting those dark fruit, those plum flavors, which is just adding to the sweetness of the already overly sweet beer. This was a miss. This is a miss by Founders. We love Founders KBS. We love their CBS, their breakfast stout. Not everything, but most of the stuff that Founders does, very, very good. This one, not good. Not good at all.
It's bad.
It's bad, and it's only gotten worse. I put away a couple of bottles just thinking maybe the blueberry would fall off. And what I'm finding is all the good parts about the beer have fallen off.
The blueberry is staying strong.
And the only thing left
There
is
was
the
good
blueberry.
parts.
There was a little bit of barrel flavor originally. No? You're shaking your head again.
I mean, it's earlier we were talking about Goose Island and their Northwoods, which is when you on paper a stout with blueberries, and this is a stout with blueberries, barrel aged, both barrel aged, but the difference is amazing. I mean, one has that subtlety, that good balance, and this is just terrible. I mean, I tried it like when I first got it. The blueberry was insane, super sweet in your face. And this has just gotten worse. The nose is terrible. And I mean, just the whole experience of this is bad. And I wish I can reverse. I think go back in time 2 years.
I think the word.
So I never bought it. Instead of going forward 2 years and aging it, I just want to go back in time and never seeing this bottle.
I think the word we're looking for is atrocious.
Atrocious.
Yeah,
it's just a miss. And like you said, we're fans of the brewery, But this is just a bad one.
Yeah, this was definitely a miss. And as you've heard already, we've had a few misses on the program, so we're not above the occasional miss. And this is our chance to air some of those grievances. And as we also said, Jim's not here today, so I think it's a good time to roast Jim a little bit since he was not able to make it to the blooper episode. Let's go around the horn and just talk about some of our favorite Jim moments.
100%.
Jesus, I know you have a few.
100%. My favorite Jim moment when he showed up, typically, late, and I asked you, "Where's Jim?" And I think your response was, "Best case scenario, he's in a ditch somewhere." And I said, "Well, what's worst case?" "Well, he's on his way."
And that lateness, I don't know if we included it in the bloopers episode last year, but his lateness was never more on display than the Essential Waters episode, where we sat down and we were about 8 to 10 minutes into that recording. Everybody's talking into the mic, everybody's having a good conversation. Jim walks up, and I think, well, Jim will probably just put his stuff down. He'll be very quiet. Nope, Jim walks right in, up to an hello, shakes his hand. Jim Anderson.
Oh, man.
Had to stop the entire recording, reset, do a whole bunch of stuff on the outside that probably didn't make it into the episode. But, yeah, fun times with Jim Anderson. Andy, how about you?
Well, it's his Shatner-esque qualities, Even in talking, if you see him on video, it's even worse. So... He
has made for some tough edits over the last couple of years, for sure. But yeah, Jim is a valuable member of the podcast. But as we said, he's not here today, so he gets roasted. Up next, though, after we just roasted the Lizard of Kaz and roasted a little bit of Jim, let's roast the 25,000 downloads episode. Andy, you're going to be first up with your constant ability to not speak into the mic. Can you tell us about?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Clearly not into the mic.
What?
So what causes this? Is we're at least 62 episodes in. Why do you still have trouble talking into the mic?
It happens, you know. Sometimes you just gotta look someone
Talking to the mic.
No, seriousness and all that. It happens.
I think he has good speaking skills because he actually looks at the person. That's what he says.
All right, also up in the 25,000 download episode. And let's just take another moment to thank all of our listeners, everybody who downloaded an episode 25,000 times. If it was just one of you, we appreciate it. If it was 25,000 of you, we also appreciate it. But that was a big milestone for us. We talked about, to take it back to the Goose Island episode, I had a little trouble after that one, navigating an oasis. And then Andy had a little trouble coming up with the word oasis. Speaking of trouble coming up with words, we've got Jim having a little bit of trouble describing a Three Sheeps beer. We had a lot of fun out at that Three Sheeps interview, but Jim was having trouble discussing at least one of those beers. So let's get into those bloopers.
Son of a bitch, give me a drink.
Now, Andy, you said that the base on this beer is very similar to another milkshake one that they do.
Yeah, the big bottoms that they put out a couple of times in the last couple of weeks. That's a double milkshake IPA with I think it's orange zest and vanilla. You gotta fucking look at, dude. I gotta look at somebody when I'm talking to them. I don't know.
Figure your shit out, man.
No.
This is episode like 57.
Not gonna do it.
Any more thoughts on that episode, Andy? Any more memories?
Just one really good one. Alex had some problems on the drive home because of too many Bourbon County. Got lost in one of those. What are those things called? The reservoirs or whatever. The overpass. What are those restaurants called? Things. Oasis.
You can just pass
Oasis.
it. Do it again.
All
Pass
right.
it to me.
Jesus, any more memories?
No, just because I was going to...
There's a little history behind this beer, too. This is not the same style as it was when it originally came out. If you listen back to our episode, it was originally a wheat wine style beer. It has now...
Wheat wine?
Wheat wine?
It might have been.
I think we shouldn't question things because it's going to come out that's probably true.
All right. We'll just leave it.
Sure.
It probably was.
Let's let Jim
Let's
going.
roll the dice. Let's
go down this terrible rabbit hole. Tell us all you think you know,
Okay.
Jim.
Get ready for some motherfucking pumpkin.
I teed it up this...
Chippage again? We got a
teed it-
motherfucking pumpkin episode to get through.
I teed it up to somebody who's going to... So, Jim, you can answer it again. Sorry.
It's a black wheat ale. That's what it was. It wasn't a wheat wine.
And then you can say which is actually their origin.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which it originated with.
Start that over.
Orange, Dan.
So it originated as a black wheat ale, is now transformed into a full-blown oatmeal stout. And the adjuncts on this are really great. The toasted coconut,
Is
cocoa
it an
nibs.
oatmeal stout?
Is it?
Are you reading it, motherfucker?
It's an oatmeal stout.
Okay, we're going to go back to when I tossed it to you.
Hey, just toss it over.
Okay, maybe. I'll bow out gracefully.
Okay, so I'm gonna introduce it again and say you. So Alex, what do you think about the beer?
BEERRUN beer run.
Poor Jimbo, always out tipping.
Tipping who?
Well, he's not out tipping. No,
No, I like that. Keep it in.
no.
This is the blooper episode. It all
Yeah.
stays in.
Just the tip.
Okay.
Oh shit. Poor Jimbo, always out pro tipping even himself. Sometimes. But we are moving on to our next couple bloopers here, and we're going south of the border. Well, not really, but our friends at Revolution, and got a couple good ones. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so we had a couple of airplane references for the first for the first blooper here. Jim, we just kind of had to stop. It's a busy tap room at the Kedzie location, and a lot of announcements are being made over the loudspeakers. And we had a couple of moments where we had to kind of stop, and Jim had some fun with it. A couple of airplane references, and then after that, we're going to be going to Andy's favorite episode, which is the pumpkin beer tasting. Jesus' traipse through the pumpkin patch.
Hate the pumpkin patch. Hate it. Just hate it so much.
Well, Andy, for this one, we didn't have too much of your bloopers, although we did leave some of those on the cutting room floor where you're basically just telling us to go fuck ourselves for a while.
That's the prerequisite of me doing a pumpkin episode. I'm going to be drunk going into it.
But what we do have is we're just going to call this clip Jim does butt stuff for beer and Andy hates pumpkin beers. Any context needed? What do you guys think?
I think that pretty much sums up 2018.
That's Jim.
Yep. And then we've got Andy's attempt to wrap up the episode and the shenanigans that occur from there. I don't know, Andy, how about that wrap up?
Let's get to it.
I mean, and right now, the one thing that I've noticed is a true characteristic of all Revolution. Loading in white zone only. Loading and unloading in white zone. No, Karen, it's the yellow zone that's unloading. Okay.
That's right.
It's fine.
Power through.
The red zone. It's for loading and unloading only.
No, Karen, the yellow zone is for loading and unloading only.
Don't give me your red zone shit,
Bob.
I want a divorce.
1980s or 1980 airplane reference for you.
No one. There'll be like 5 people that understand what we're talking about right now. I feel old.
If the SBO wasn't enough, Jim, we can offer up his butt for stuff.
Jim does butt stuff.
But only for the big interviews.
And CBS.
Which we got a case of.
Thanks for that.
Good stuff.
That was after we got the case of it.
So you have a case. I'm willing to do butt stuff for that case that you got. That you're already going to give me 4 bottles of.
It's for like a pour. A festival.
Yeah.
It's still recording.
Yeah. No, that's good. Like I said, we need some blooper stuff now, guys. So
Yeah.
let's get a little crazy. All right. Pumpkin bears!
Bitches! Boom, boom, boom.
Pumpkin, bitch.
It's a motherfucking pumpkin episode. Bitch.
Yes, we need that.
I at least have a cigarette before it. Jesus Christ.
I think we found a cold open.
No, I can't do that. Does anyone else have any comments? Because I'll just pick my top 2 and then you all can wrap it up after that.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, all right.
Okay, that's going to make the blooper
We're
reel.
about there. No.
I think we're about ready to wrap it up here.
So, do you want me to say like?
I thought you had something to say.
No, I do. But then I was going to send it to wrap it up. That's
Okay,
just
yeah,
about
yeah.
me. For
Yeah, do that.
I guess that's.
Give us
I
your
guess-
final thoughts on these 2 beers, and then let's wrap it up.
You got something else to say or no?
No, I was just
Okay.
going to say. I guess that's a good time to kind of wrap this
No,
whole thing up.
let him do it.
Okay.
So for me, I'm glad this goddamn
For me,
experience
for
is
Andy.
over.
Lose a girl out of here.
It's the worst time of the year on the Tap Takeover podcast for Andy.
All right. Always a good time at those pumpkin tasting episodes. It's yeah.
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
what can you really say?
We'll just end it here. So for me, for Alex,
Andy here.
Jesus.
and Jim, who couldn't be here for the blooper episode, you got roasted. What did you just say? You just cough and say AIDS.
A little bit.
I think he's trying to make next year's
We can't double up on our bloopers on the blooper episode. And fuck you for trying. And for Jim, who couldn't be here,
Andy here.
this has been our blooper episode.
He said there's no